Yes, guys, hello and welcome back to the SpursRelated YouTube channel, and I hope everyone is doing very well today. Today, we are discussing all things Ange tactics, and the question and the title of the video is Ange Postecoglou a little bit stubborn? Is he a little bit naive with his tactics? Do we need to change things up during games when it's not going too well? And I am joined alongside Jack to discuss all things Postecoglou tactics. Jack, just very quickly, first thoughts on this. Are you in the boat that Ange needs to mix things up, or are you in the boat that no, actually, it's the way we play, mate, kind of thing?
Got to be honest, I think I have been lured into the Ange Postecoglou way of thinking. I think it's all gun ho for me. I think I fully back the manager, and I love his style of football. But I do think it's important to address some potential tactical issues that we can observe. And is it worth kind of the risk that we're taking with this extreme high line? And when it's not kind of at 100%, when we're not playing that football as good as we were with the free flow and attacking style, should we kind of revert maybe to going 10 yards deeper and kind of not going as gun-ho? But you'll see my kind of observation at the end of the video, because there's lots of pros and cons to both.
Okay. I wanted to bring up, first of all, obviously going back a few months to this absolute horror show against Chelsea in the league where we went down to 9 men and we lost 4-1. I know this is an extreme case, Jack, but obviously, with Ange Ball, it's high press, high line sort of system. Um, Even when we went down to 9 men, we would play such a high line. We were on the halfway line, and I think that was one of the games where we saw Ange Postecoglou come out and say, "This is how I set the team up. This is how I play. I can't play any other way." And I sort of sat there and thought, fair play. We were probably going to lose that game regardless, going down to 9 men. However, there was that inkling, I'm thinking, later in the season, if we do go, say, 2-1 down, and we're still playing with this sort of gung-ho style football, it may come back to haunt us. And I mean, I wanted to just fast forward to Saturday's game against Everton. And this is a screenshot taken from the second goal where we were defending a free kick. And obviously, it was an unfortunate flick on that Romero did, and the finish from I think it was Braithwaite. But I just think, Jack, even here, the free kick, obviously, the free kick taker's slightly off the screen. But do you not think that's a little bit too much of a high line, even for a free kick? Like, normally you'd see players battling in the box. What do you think?
So with Tottenham, Ryan Mason head of pieces, and as you can see there, this season we've actually gone with zonal marking, which means you kind of guys who haven't played football, you'd realise that you're guarding the space rather than man-to-man marking. And it's interesting that we've decided to adopt that. So that means we've kind of gone with a really high line. But as we know, Spurs have been targeted for their set pieces. We saw Vicario go under pressure for the Man City game, and we saw Everton kind of adopt that tactic really well against us. And as we know, they scored the equaliser from a free kick. And for me, it's kind of right now we're getting really punished for it. We're not defending very well. As we know, Romero, who's usually I'd say quite aerially dominant, he's very strong. Let's be honest, we know he doesn't go half-heartedly into challenges, but it come off his head awkwardly and obviously allowed Branthwaite to score that goal and kind of have a free run at it. Just for me, I feel like we have to stick with it. I do, as annoying as it is, I feel like if we don't fully try to adopt this gun-ho style of football and really go for it, we're not going to progress in the way Postecoglou wants. I think we kind of all got lured into the trap that we thought the perfect free-flowing attacking football we clicked straight away, James. In the first 10 games, we were all excited. We were unbeaten. We were on top of the league. Everyone was feeling on top of the world. But in reality, it does take longer to kind of adopt that style of football. And we did rely a lot on individual brilliance from Kulusevski scoring and James Maddison obviously playing fantastic. And now we're kind of in a situation where we've got a few injuries, we've got a lot of players out, where we're not going to have that individual brilliance. And we've got to thoroughly rely on the style of football, James. And I feel like that's where we're kind of getting caught out. But I do think that's why we need to stick with the football. We really need to adopt the philosophy on the training ground, keep learning it, because it's not going to click like that. It takes a while. Postecoglou said previously that it does take a while for the players to learn his methods, and I think they'll get there. And I think we've got to stick with it.
Agreed. I think we do have to stick to this style. However, I will say, especially on Saturday, it got to the 70th minute, 75th minute. Everton were pushing us. It was just a matter of time, Jack, before we conceded. That's how I always feel. And we're conceding, I believe the stat is in the last 7 games, 14 goals. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's around 2 goals a game we are conceding in the Premier League. And I
We have
just
an
want to take you back, Jack, quickly to
yeah,
the game on Saturday. 0.9 XG for us. We scored 2 goals. Obviously, 2 of our, I think we had 4 big chances that game. 2 were sort of half chances from Richarlison, who scored them both unbelievably well. So that puts our XG down because it wasn't like a guaranteed sort of chance. But then there was a couple of other chances. Other than that, Jack, we didn't really threaten Everton. And then you go to Everton's 14 shots. We conceded 14 shots, if you like. We're
sure.
giving our opposition a lot of chances in games. 2.62 XG, in fact. You could argue, Jack, that we were actually lucky to get a draw on Saturday. And before I get your thoughts on this, just going back in the season to, I believe, our second game in the Premier League, which was away to Bournemouth. We won 2-0, Jack, and we only conceded 11 shots and big chances 0, right? So you compare the two, and we're giving away far, far more big chances in games than we were earlier in this season. And I think that's a bit of a concern because that's a 2.06 XG to 0.67. I'd also argue that Bournemouth, perhaps they've improved throughout the season, but are probably as hard of an opponent as Everton, if not harder. And I think we played so much more confidently and better in the early stage of the season. I mean, it has to be flagged, Jack. Like, I can't sit here and pretend we're playing as well as we did earlier in the season because we're just not. So something
Mm.
has changed.
So it kind of alludes to my point earlier. I feel like when Ange come in and he really got on that training pitch straight away, he showed that all we're going to do is attack and attack and attack, and we're not going to care what the opposition do because we're in control of what we're doing. Now I feel like teams have kind of took a step back and they're starting to figure out that there is a way you can defend this high attacking line. We can clearly see that Spurs leave a lot of space in between for the fullbacks, and Everton played really well. I think managers have kind of done their research on Postecoglou and tried to find ways around where they can kind of overcome that issue. And I feel like I said before, at the start of the season, the feel good factor was there. There was no risk. Nobody was expecting much. And that meant we also signed some brilliant players in Maddison. We've got the brilliance of Son that they could kind of thrive. Now we've had a couple of injuries to Maddison. Son's been at the Asian Cup of Games. Basuma was out. Sarr was out. Like I said, we've had to bring in kind of our second tier players, and we're going to have to really rely on the system. And we haven't had that individual brilliance. So that means we've come a bit unstuck. And I think, as you know, James, we didn't really create much at all. I never felt like we were carving Everton open. And I always thought they were the team that on the counter attack probably looked more likely to score. And that's what I'm talking about, individual brilliance again. Who would have thought Richarlison, 2 absolutely worldy goals kind of saved us in that match, and we were unlucky not to get the 3 points in the end. But coming back to my original point, I just think teams are starting to figure us out a bit more, and we're still learning the free flow and attacking football. And kind of at the start of the season, we all kind of got lured into the fact that we nailed it straight away. But I think there's just a few more positions we have to learn.
Okay. No, all makes sense. In terms of the attacks, we've talked about us, I guess, the defensive side of things and teams figuring us out of how we play in an attacking sense. What going forwards, do you think things have changed? You want to talk through this, Jack?
Yeah, so for me, I think Tottenham are at their best really when you've got James Maddison in the middle of the park, and you've got Kulusevski kind of dropping into the middle, and we're really kind of attacking through the middle of the pitch. And I think recently, well, obviously getting into the wingers quick as well. We know the quality of Porro and Udogie, but recently we've really been relying on our fullbacks as much to kind of get involved with the goals. And I feel like we've really struggled. I think if you're watching the game on the weekend, you'd realise Everton completely dominated that midfield battle. I thought they played phenomenal there. The Core was still out injured, and so was Onana. So they were fantastic. And I really felt like our midfield with Bentancur definitely didn't have a good game in a Spurs shirt. I thought Højbjerg was okay. But we just got completely overrun, James. And I feel like with our wingers as well, before we had Son and Kulusevski kind of playing at a top level, now we're kind of relying on Werner and Johnson. They haven't quite had the individual brilliance that Son and Kulusevski had at the start of the season. And as you can see, all our players come down the wing from out wide. And and it's just not being as effective as it once was. But I just thought it was an important graphic to show you guys and kind of get your take on it. Maybe not need to look into it too much, but for me, the key takeaway would be, I think at the start of the season, we were attacking through the middle very well. The likes of James Maddison showed his individual quality, and now we're kind of getting overrun a bit.
Yeah, no, interesting. Especially as most of that play is coming from the wide channels and the quality isn't there. We're lacking a one-on-one winger really at times. Um, but this one, Jack, also interesting, right? No shots in the 6-yard box, which is essentially a part of how Ange Postecoglou likes to play, getting it into the middle of the box.
Exactly, James. And when we spoke about Ange and kind of Harry Kane leaving, we thought the reason why he might give Richarlison a go, which we know he has, is because the striker's main job is to score from 6 yards out. The quality of chances is the priority. That is the Postecoglou style of football. And as we know, Richarlison's been thriving, but he's been scoring goals, two absolutely worldy goals, kind of on the edge of the box and outside the box. And in the game against Everton, we didn't have any chances in the 6-yard box. Look at Everton's chances. They were all in their 6-yard box. And I feel like this is where we're kind of coming unstuck. At the start of the season, I know we don't have a graphic for it, but I'm telling you, all the goals we were scoring were kind of close range goals, James. We were creating real quality chances that you basically can't miss. And we were doing that
Mm.
constantly. And recently, we've come unstuck in the fact that people are kind of defending deeper and then hitting us on the counter attack, and we're not breaking them down as well. And like I said, that also alludes to my point earlier, kind of carving them open through the middle of the pitch, allowing the creativity of a Bentancur, a Kulusevski, and a Maddison. But yeah, just thought it was an interesting graphic. Obviously, we all know it wasn't one of our best games this season against Everton. But in the last couple of games, we have been a bit more slow. We have been a bit more stagnant, and we haven't been creating the quality of chances we have been previously. But I would like to believe that is down to the fact we've had a lot of injuries. But we're going to have to see if we can kind of get back to that free-flowing attacking football that we saw earlier on this season.
Yeah, and I think it also shows how key Heung-min Son is, right? You know, had our question marks and doubts over, how he's been playing this season at times. He obviously started the season very well and got a few goals, but you know, I think without Son, I don't have much confidence in the wide areas, and I think when he comes back, I think we should be playing Sonny off the left, for Richarlison up front, and I think probably the right wings up for debate. Is it a Werner or is it a Kulusevski? Is it even a Johnson? I'm not too sure. Probably one of the first two, but I think it's interesting, and I think it's not just a coincidence. We've stopped playing as well in attack with Sonny out, right? So it's a big part. Wanted to quickly touch maybe 1 minute on the substitutions in games, Jack, because I
Yeah,
feel like at times we need to make substitutions more quickly and a bit more wisely. And I think the weekend was a good example of that. I feel like the substitutions weren't quite there, and I feel like we need to act on the situation a bit sooner. I think at half time you could argue that certain players should have been off that pitch. Johnson, for me, was absolutely atrocious. And he did all right against Brentford in midweek, but at the weekend he wasn't up to it. Should we have changed that a bit earlier? What do you think?
definitely. I think in-game substitutions probably weren't the best against Everton. Yes, it's easy in hindsight, and like I've already had to stress, I think Ange is doing such a good job. But I think it's fair to kind of talk about where we went wrong in the game. And I think, as we all could see, were the substitutions correct? That first 45 minutes, Brennan Johnson looked lost. I think Porro was beginning to get frustrated. Porro was looking to play him in behind so Johnson could use his pace, but it always felt like Johnson was a yard off the mark. He wasn't getting in the right position. We want to see Brennan Johnson on the shoulder so he can use his strength, which is his pace, to get in behind. And he just didn't look like he was understanding from a positional sense, and that's what he really needs to do. And that's what I was talking about earlier, James, saying that maybe the players don't understand where they need to be as well as we thought they did. We thought it clicked straight away for the first 10 games, but right now we're seeing Johnson. He looks a bit lost. But
Mm.
fair play to him. He come out in the second half. He played a bit stronger. But then again, with 10 minutes to go, James, when you need to keep the ball, when you need someone to kind of control and dictate the tempo of the game, we took off James Maddison. As we know, he's been injured, but we brought on Skip, we brought on Brian Hill. And as we know, And he also brought on Kulusevski. Kulusevski gave away the ball, who you would have thought is good at keeping the ball, James, for allowing the free kick. So I just feel like maybe we need to be careful of what type of profile of player we need in that centre of the pitch. I would say it needs to be someone who's calm and is going to keep the ball, especially in the dying minutes. You want to slow down the game and kind of make sure you get over the line. As we know, we gave away the ball and they scored from a stupid free kick to give away, and Branthwaite got the equaliser. So just for me, it's just silly things like that. Maybe keep your best ball retention players on the pitch. Maddison is a leader as well. He's someone that's going to get everyone over the line. We've seen what it means to him earlier on in the season. But look, Ange's doing a great job. I just think there's a few tactical areas and maybe in-game substitutions where if he didn't make a couple changes, it could have gone the other way.
No, I completely agree with everything you said. I think the only thing I would probably debate is the fact that is James Maddison fully fit after being back from that injury. Yeah. I was actually watching the video he did with Stephen Hendry, the Q-Tips video, the snooker video. He was on his channel. It was a great video, by the way. And he said even there, like, it's going to take a few games to get fully fit. So I think Maddison knows himself that he's not up to his very best. He got a little flick to Richarlison, didn't he? A little assist, but he's not really.
I think still, James, he showed moments of brilliance. I think a couple of times where he had the ball in the centre of the pitch, and this is what I'm alluding to, is where he just dropped his shoulder, a little shift of the body, and it allowed Kulusevski to have so much space. Just having that extra quality in the middle of the pitch makes such a difference, especially when we're a team that likes to attack, start through the middle, and then kind of rely on the fullbacks and the wingers to be specialising in one-on-one situations. So when he's back to full fitness, James, I think we're going to see a completely different Tottenham.
Yeah, no, completely agree. But guys, let us know in the comments below what you think on this talking point. Should Ange Postecoglou be changing things up a little bit earlier in games? Do you think we need to play a little bit less of a high line during some situations? Let us know in the comments below. Guys, also smash the thumbs up. Subscribe if you are new. Support the channel as much as you can. And guys, we'll be back very, very soon. As always, come on, you Spurs.